We are less than 6 days away from the date the Department of Treasury has signified would shut down the federal government and exhaust all borrowing authority. We all know that we are at this point because we have a fundamental difference in the principles on how our government should be run. We all know that we are at this point because the financial viability of our nation is at stake. I believe that this debt ceiling debate presents Congress with a critical opportunity to get our country back on a sustainable and prosperous path. We must send a message to the markets, to the American people, and to American businesses that we are going to get our fiscal house in order with spending cuts, caps on future spending, and permanent budget reform in the form of a balanced budget amendment. What we need now is a serious proposal to provide certainty and clear commitment to a reform measure that ensures spending cuts before the debt ceiling is raised. The Senate Majority Leader and the House Speaker's plans have similarities, and I believe that a common ground can be found in the two. First, neither of the plans proposes tax increases to achieve deficit reduction, and both plans aim for significant deficit savings in the amount of $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, is that what we wanted? Is that what I would have written if I could have been the czar? No, I would have had more cuts. We should be reaching for $4 trillion cuts, not 1.2. But we have had plans put forward for $4 trillion. We've had plans put forward for more, and we couldn't get those through. We couldn't get one through the Senate. We couldn't get one through the House. And furthermore, entitlements are not on the drawing boards right now in the plans that are before us, and entitlement reform is essential for us to address. We can certainly put Social Security on the fiscally responsible path that will make it secure for 75 years with very minor changes and gradual changes if we do it now. This is an opportunity. Because we have only 6 days, we're not going to be able to do it in this vehicle. But there is a plan going forward that our leaders, Senator McConnell and Senator Reid, along with a bipartisan group of senators, have put forward that actually will have entitlement reform. And I think we need to look at those for the longer term and not let this opportunity pass to do something that will be enduring for the fiscal responsibility of our country. But we have 6 days, and now we have to do something as responsible as possible with the time that we have left and keep open the option of doing what we should be doing for the long term before the end of this year. That's what Senator McConnell, Senator Reid, many other senators have put on the table. That is what we need to try to achieve. But we have made great strides. What Republicans said from the beginning is we're not going to support tax increases of any kind in this economic climate. Businesses are not hiring. A 9.1% unemployment rate is unacceptable. Our businesses are afraid of the Obama health care plan and its costs, and they're factoring that in to their plans, and they're not hiring people because of the expense. You add more tax increases on top of that, and our economy is going to be stagnant for a long time. So tax increases were off the table. But I do hope that we can also make the cuts that will put us on a fiscally responsible plan so we will not have to address this debt ceiling ever again. So we have made a major achievement. Sometimes it seems like when you have to come together to do something that isn't ideal, you don't take acknowledgement of the fact that you are making one smaller step in the right direction. And I think in order to avoid a fiscal calamity, we do need to make the strongest step that we can make, which is cutting spending and doing it without increasing taxes. The idea that we could tax our way out of debt has been totally discounted. Neither of these plans includes tax hikes to offset the deficit reduction, and that is a strong endorsement. Both proposals also include budget enforcement of discretionary caps by requiring automatic across-the-board cuts if the caps are not met. That will put a governor on future spending that will keep the promise that we are making to cut spending. Both proposals establish a bipartisan committee to identify further deficit reduction that would include tax reform and fixing the broken entitlement programs. I hope that we will not throw that out the window. Having a commission, I know people roll their eyes and say, oh, another commission, really? Well, if we have a finite end date and have the opportunity to make more real cuts, it's worth another chance. We do need to make entitlement reforms, and if we can do tax reform that lowers the tax rate for everyone and brings in revenue by having more people hired off the unemployment rolls, that's a win. We raise revenue by putting more people back to work. That's the way you raise revenue, not by tax increases that puts a lid on hiring. So I think we've got some good things that can be put together. We need to make sure that we go forward as much as we can with a divided Congress and try to make a step in the right direction, and then hopefully before the end of the year we will be able to take stronger steps that will have a more lasting impact. I, for one, think it is not even a possibility that we would allow the debt ceiling to be met and start the process then of watching the president decide who gets paid and who doesn't. Now, I have a bill that I have introduced with strong support that would make the priority paying the interest on our debt and paying our soldiers, our men and women who have boots on the ground in harm's way. If you're on active duty military, you shouldn't waste 1 minute thinking about whether you're going to make your mortgage. And Mr. President, I want to say that I commend USAA. USAA is the corporation that services so many of our service personnel, and they have put out their policy in case the debt limit is reached and we haven't come to an accommodation, that not one of their customers in the military will have to worry about their paychecks. They are going to cover in advance the paycheck that that military person would be entitled to, because they have faith that eventually we will meet our obligations in Congress and everything will be okay. They also know the stresses on those members of the armed services. USAA is doing a wonderful thing by putting those families of loved ones across the sea fighting for our security at ease, because they will know that their mortgage payment is going to go out of their bank account and they're not going to have to worry about the things that they need as their children are starting school in the next month, wherever they are. So, Mr. President, I commend USAA. At the same time, I would like for my bill to be passed that assures that those who are not customers of USAA will also have the comfort of knowing that their paychecks will be there on time. And so I hope that if all else fails in this body, that we can pass the legislation that says we'll pay our debts and we will pay our military, and Social Security recipients will also be paid from that account. But I don't think we ought to get that far at all, and that's why I am urging our members to work with our leaders. Don't throw stones at our leaders. I mean, they have a tough job corralling 100 pretty big egos, and we ought to be helping them get to the point where we're all comfortable that we are doing the right thing. And sometimes you can't get 100% of what you want when there are 100 people who have their individual ideas as well. So, Mr. President, I hope that we will take this chance to do so much for our country that we have the opportunity to do, and we may have to do it in smaller steps to reach that goal. But if we reach the goal, we will have secured the future for our children, and that is what we're here for. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The senator from Virginia.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to speak as if in morning business.
Without objection.